Hey, this is Dan Beenken with UNI and our Center for Business Growth and Innovation. We're the business outreach arm at UNI, helping companies all over the state. And that's really been focused on COVID response here for the last couple of months, unfortunately. We've spent a lot of time with our webinar series lately detailing ways to apply for some of the stimulus packages, legal, tax questions, all kinds of other risk issues related to COVID. How are companies coping with COVID has kind of been our newer theme the last couple of weeks. And so we're trying to feature companies who are finding ways to thrive at a time when things are pretty bleak. And today we have Katie Bjerke joining us. And I know I got that pronounced right because she said beer is key. So as we all know, beer is key right now during these times. Anyway, Katie's joining us from the retail industry. She owns a home decor antique type shop in Cedar Falls, Iowa, called Hatchlings Hens. I'll let her explain a little bit more about her shop in a minute. But as you can imagine, retail has been hit just about as hard as any industry, if not harder, especially small retail. And we're really excited to talk to Katie today about kind of some of the ways that she's coping with that, making things work, keeping her sanity, etc. So, Katie, if you could quickly, introduce yourself and maybe give us a little timeline on how long you've been in retail, how you got started with your store, and then we'll try to get into some of the specific ways you're coping with COVID, okay?
Sure. My name's Katie, and like Dan said, I own Hatchlings and Hens, which is located on Main Street in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And I've been on Main Street for less than a year. It'll be a year in September of this year. So I don't know, however many months that is. Prior to that, I was over on State Street, which is kind of if you're not familiar with Cedar Falls, it's kind of I would say a secondary shopping district area that's kind of popping up. But I was down just far enough that I was a little more off the beaten path. So I'm excited to be in the thick of it right now. And then prior to that, I did some occasional sales out of actually a garage in Cedar Falls. I have a friend who owned another business, and she had asked me to kind of come. She had already established the location. And she had asked me to come in and share space with her. So that was kind of how I got my start. Cool. And we did that for about a year and a half. I did some markets and things like that prior. But I would say the way I primarily got started was out of my home. My kids, I became a stay-at-home mom when I had my first son. And I used to work in marketing for a local credit union. And when my son was born, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, but I was just really struggling with that role. And I was creative in my job before I quit, and I didn't really have that creative outlet after the fact. And so I actually went to a counselor because it was just kind of a rough time. And he had suggested finding a creative outlet with being a stay-at-home mom. And that's when I started making things at home and sewing, and so that's kind of where the whole making side of my business came about.
Cool. Okay.
And so the shop now focuses primarily on handmade goods that are pretty local to the area. We have, I think, probably over a dozen for sure different local makers that contribute to the shop. I make some of the products. I do a little bit of wholesale. And we also have a craft studio that is part of the shop. And that has been kind of an unexpected, really fun added bonus to the business. Honestly, it was kind of an afterthought when I was thinking about my business plan. I wanted something to kind of help offset slow retail times and more of a service type aspect to the business. And so that's where the craft studio came about with, we offer blank projects. So think of kind of like paint your own pottery, but we don't offer just pottery. We have wood plaques and wood items, paper mache, and then we offer just a slew of craft supplies that people can pick and choose from. That's all wrapped into the cost of each project. So you just come in, pick your projects, and then we've got paint, ribbon, fabric scraps, googly eyes, you name it, we probably have it. And you just work to create whatever you're feeling that day.
Cool. Okay. All right. Thanks for the background, Katie. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't too long-winded.
No, that's perfect. I think one point you made there, that for any retailers that are listening or hope to be retailers, I think that whole how you wrap a service around your retail is always critical for small town retail. I see that everywhere, be it with craft and decor and home retail type stuff, but all kinds of different business models utilize that, or they bring service in with hair cutting or nails or whatever it
Right.
would be, that kind of thing too. So
Yeah, I worked with a counselor with the Small Business Development Center at UNI when I was working on my business plan. And that was one of the things the counselor, Jessica Marsh, I'm sure you probably know
yeah,
her. She's
yep.
no longer with the SBDC, but that was one thing that she brought up when we were meeting. And I'm so thankful that I did include that in my business, because it's been key to helping me keep going during some of those slower times.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it brings in a different audience. It brings in an audience that might otherwise come in and everything like that. So I think
Right.
that's a good point that you make early, which isn't really the focus of today, but I think is important for anybody considering opening something in retail. So our focus today is how you've kind of come along and been able to, survive and thrive maybe during a time when I'm sure a lot of your competitors, colleagues, whatever you want to call them, in other home decor, antique, small retail, are suffering right now because of social distancing laws, and for many their businesses just aren't open. How have you been able to, first of all, maybe if you could take us back 6 weeks or so when things really started hitting the fan, so to speak, what was going on in your mind as far as coping mechanisms, and what am I going to do, and what did your business model look like at the time? Because I don't think you were very robust with an online presence at that time, and
No.
could you kind of walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, to be perfectly honest, when the talk of COVID started, when it really wasn't in this country, I kind of dismissed it, to be perfectly honest. Like I think probably a lot of us probably did. We didn't expect it to become what it has. And so it really wasn't a thought. In fact, I would say probably 2 or 3 weeks before we started seeing any kind of shutdowns, I had a customer in, and she booked a birthday party for the craft studio, and she mentioned at that time, asked about my cancellation policy and what would happen if with all this COVID talk. And at that time I was kind of like, really, are we really talking about this? Like,
Yeah,
it was just, it caught me off guard. And so it really was not even a thought in my mind. I hadn't really paid much attention to it. And then probably 2-3 weeks later is when it really started ramping up in the US, and we started hearing a lot of talk about it. And I guess I looked at what was happening in New York and some of the cities where it hit first. And I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I felt like I was a little bit more proactive maybe than some other businesses. I saw it coming. I knew that it would probably hit us at some point. And so at that time, I think I was probably about a week ahead of what most businesses were downtown. I actually closed my doors earlier than a lot of the other businesses did, even before the governor asked for it. And that was primarily because of the craft studio. We were going into spring break here. And spring break is a very, very busy time for my craft studio, with kids being out of school.
yeah,
And I knew I would have large crowds. And so just listening to what the CDC was recommending, I just didn't feel comfortable having those large crowds in my craft studio, even though the shutdowns weren't really starting yet.
sure.
And so I think I decided about a week ahead of most businesses that I would close. And yeah, like you said, when I made that decision, I had zero. Well, I shouldn't say zero. I had a very, very small online presence.
And what was that? If you could, you
Yeah,
could.
I've always offered classes as part of my craft studio. So for adults, you can, we offer classes that are in the evenings when we're not open.
Mhm.
And so I've always had I use Square as my platform for processing.
For taking
And
credit cards, right? So,
right,
yep.
yes. And so Square has always offered it's very basic, their website platform, but they've always offered that. And I started using that when I started offering classes as a way for people to register and pay ahead of time, because I didn't want to take payment the night of, in the fear that some people just wouldn't show. So I always knew I needed that option to allow people to pay ahead of time. And since I was already using Square, it just seemed like an easy, natural way to do it. So I had that very small presence. I think I listed like a couple t-shirts and things like that, maybe on the online store, but it wasn't anything big. And a lot of my
place for you
customers,
to advertise classes
right,
predominantly and take payment.
exactly.
A
Yeah, I
place
don't
for
think a
people
lot
to
of my
pay
customers,
without bother calling you or whatever then.
right.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of my customers even knew that I had it, unless they
Okay.
were looking to register for a class. So
All
it
right.
was kind of there in the background. My website was set up to direct people to that Square site because it's not built directly into my website. So I did already have that link built into my website. So when this all started, I knew that about that week before I closed that I was going to have to start offering things online. And I just started small, took pictures of maybe a dozen or so products that I knew were good sellers for me. And started loading them onto that online store that I already kind of had the framework for. And then when I did actually close, was able to push people to that resource. But one thing I do want to communicate is that I started, if you look at I don't know, is there a way for you to share my website right now, or as far as the store, or can I share my screen? I don't know. I'm not real great at Zoom, but
Yeah.
there's a good amount of products on the online store now.
Yeah,
And
let me take people through it.
sure, it didn't look at all like that when I first started. And I want to point that out because when you're looking, if you have no online store at all and you're looking to get one started, it's just really overwhelming. There is so much that goes it, you have to take the photos, and then you have to build the items, and then you have to actually put it into the online store. And it's why I never did it before, because the whole process was just completely overwhelming. So as you can
Time
see now,
consuming. Yeah.
yeah, so now you can see I've got a whole bunch of different categories. There's all of my craft projects are on there. If you click on the more button, you can see, I think, more of the categories that are available.
Oh
But
yeah.
I didn't really like I said, I didn't even have categories when I first set it up. I think when we talked even a week ago, these categories didn't exist. It was basically just a scrolling up and down of the different products that I offered. So my point being that you don't need to start with a big, massive online store if you don't have one to begin with. Like I said, I think I had a few shirts, I had a few craft projects that I knew were good sellers, and that's where I started. So I just got myself in the mindset from the beginning that it could just start here, and then as I had time, I could add more. And as I was able to get maybe more products in, I still had some shipments that were coming that I had ordered before all of this. And so I just kept in mind, start small, just get it out there so people can support you, and add as you can. So that's the biggest thing I would communicate to those out there who don't have an online presence at all, is just start somewhere.
Let's talk through that a little bit in some detail. So if I'm on your website right now, which is actually this page, hatchlingsandhens.com, there really is no e-commerce capabilities here. I can't buy whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't have any payment processing built into my website.
So that's what you had pre-COVID, was just what a lot of people would refer to as a brochure type website to talk about who you are and what most businesses have. And then this online store button that's in the top right area, you were able to add that?
That was always there. That was the small little piece that I had built in for a way for people to register for classes.
Okay.
But if you click on it, you'll see it takes you to the Square site. So it has nothing to do with my web development or the person that, the people that put my website together. It's completely hosted and powered
Yep.
by Square. It's actually through Weebly now, but Square used to do their own, and now it's through Weebly. I'm getting
Okay.
maybe technical for a lot of people probably, but
Yeah, we don't need to get that far into it, um, but
so, but
essentially, you were doing merchant processing with Square, and they would always send you emails, I'm sure, all the time saying,
right,
go online with us, use our e-commerce platform, and you just kept deleting those emails because
pretty
that's a lot
much,
of
yeah,
time, a pain
yeah.
in the ass, etc. So then eventually you got to a point where, you know what, I have to do this now because my doors aren't open or whatever, and let's try this out. So you got up the nerve, had a couple of maybe liquid courage beverages or
Years.
whatever it took, yeah, and uh, and then got into this Square thing. And did you use your own photography? Is this a mix of manufacturers or rep provided photography, or is this all you? Or
Yeah, a lot of it is just stuff that I've taken on my iPhone. I
okay,
do have a DSLR camera, but the the functionality of taking the photos and then uploading it to my computer, it's just I have an iPhone, so it's easy. I can AirDrop. It's yeah, so it's all on my iPhone. I do have some products that I order wholesale, and so I was able to take the photos off their website and use some of those items. So if you go to Home and Garden, that's a good example of some of those wholesaling products. Yeah. And then I also do have some consigners. So like that strawberry lemon candle, for instance, that you're seeing on the screen right now is one of my, the strawberry lemon one.
yep,
She's a consigner. And so I just now added the consigners to my website because I was having a hard time wrapping my brain around how that would work. And so I've asked them to take their own photos and write descriptions, and then I'm able to get those uploaded a little faster. So
okay.
it's kind of a combination of my own photos, some stock photography from the wholesalers, and then photography from my consigners.
And so you're definitely not getting caught up in the fact that every photo doesn't have the same background or stylistic
No.
sameness or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
that was, as I was thinking about us talking today, that was another thing I wanted to bring up. I have a background in marketing and public relations, and so I'm very familiar with branding. And this Square site breaks every branding rule out there. It looks nothing like my actual website. It's got my logo on it, and that's about it. The fonts don't match my website. The backgrounds are not all the same. And I'm fully aware of that, but I guess I just feel like at this time, it's not the time to be worrying about branding and making it look perfect.
Yep.
I have a lot of people that follow me and want to support me, and this is just a way for me to get it to them so that they can support me.
Okay. So you've gotten into Square, you've fumbled your way through, learned it a little bit on your own, had some frustration, I'm sure, and gotten some things posted, and then so now you have a website that no one knows about to some extent, right?
Right.
How did you start to bring the website and e-commerce platform into your business model to let your clientele know?
Sure. I use a lot of social media. I did, even before this, had a pretty strong Instagram and Facebook presence. And I know that's not for everybody. But I will say it's been the easiest way for me to just talk to the people that want to support me. I think of it as a way, like I just always approach that social media as a conversation with my
Mm-hmm.
customers. It doesn't need to be pitchy. It doesn't need to be all about sales. I talk about home stuff on my feeds. I talk about kids stuff on my feeds.
Sure.
But it's just an easy way to build a community around you and to reach out to those that want to support you. And so it just became a natural way for me to push the website since I already had that following on Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
I also, this sounds really simple, but I put a sign on my front door that said, due to the concerns around COVID, we're currently closed. Please visit. And I listed the website right there on the sign so that, if people were walking by early on, people didn't necessarily know that we were going to be closed. And so if they came and tried to shop and we were closed, at least they saw the website there and that we were doing things on the website. So that's a really low tech, easy way to communicate it. You could
Yep.
even I saw some businesses downtown. Basket of Daisies, for instance, is another business downtown, and she ordered some big posters to put in her front window that say, "We're open online," and then there's her website right on that big poster. So it doesn't have to be a high tech way of doing it. Facebook and Instagram was already there for me, but I understand it's not for everybody. So even something as simple as like that big poster in the front window is an easy way to get it out there.
Yep. Oh yeah, and your email addresses if you have those and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. If you do newsletters, or if you even just have a database of emails that you haven't done an email newsletter yet, just sending out. And again, keep in mind, it doesn't need to be beautiful. It can be all text. Hey, we just want you to know we're open online. You don't even need to have photos in that email, just a way to get it out there to people. That I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't know how many of you guys do, but one that I listen to quite a bit is Jenna Kutcher, and she is a big proponent of done is better than perfect. And I have tried to keep that in the back of my mind through all of this. It doesn't have to look pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be out there so people can get to it.
That's a good point, especially in these times for what
Right.
you're facing. Right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you take it haphazardly, that you shouldn't put your best foot
Sure.
forward every time, but sometimes it's just better to get it out there. And we can talk ourselves out of everything by going over the details over and over and over. And so much so that it's sometimes paralyzing. So I think just keeping that in mind all the time is really important, especially now.
No, that's good advice. Done is better than perfect. I'll try to remind my wife of that later. No, just kidding. So let's. I got one question here that someone must have been on your Facebook page and noticed that you've done some live Facebook shopping events. Can you talk a little bit about that? They'd like to know anything that you've learned along the way with those.
Sure. So I didn't do any live Facebook feeds until COVID. So that is one thing that is completely new for me. What I did do a lot before now is Instagram stories. So Facebook Live, I know, can be kind of scary for people. You can't edit it. You can't restart. It's, what you put out there is out there.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're not currently doing Facebook Lives, Instagram stories is a really easy way to just start. And you can record something. If you don't like it, you delete it, you re-record it. But yet it's still your face talking to people. It's a conversation. It's not just a picture with words under it. So it's an easy way to give tours of your store. I would often just, videotape really up close to merchandise and do like store tours. And I did a lot of that even before I did the Facebook Lives. While I was closed, I would just kind of get up real close to different products and just scan it so that people could see what I had if it wasn't on the website. And again, that was all through Instagram stories. And I know a lot of those stories automatically upload to your Facebook feed as well. So that story is either on Facebook or Instagram.
So then would you literally just have the camera and you're talking and you're not on camera, but you're...
Nope. And sometimes I would maybe talk in the background to describe something that needed a little more explanation. But a lot of times there's an option on the stories to turn the audio off. So it would just be a silent video scanning the products. And I sold a ton of products that way before the website even got, what it is now. So people would say, oh, hey, I saw these candles in your stories. What other scents do you have? And I want to order some. So that it was a really good tool to use that prior to Facebook Live. And then once I felt more comfortable, I did the Facebook Live. And so that's, it is a little scarier. I know there's a lot of people that don't want to go that route. But I will tell you, it has helped immensely with my sales. And downtown Cedar Falls has just, we started this week a girls' night in shop hop, and it's all done through Facebook Live. It was Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and then we have another day of it today. And the idea is that, so each business, one business or a few businesses, sorry, take a day. So on Tuesday night, beginning at 5, from like 5 to 9, there were 3 or 4 different businesses that were doing a Facebook Live feed. So one business would start from 5 to 6, then they would push it to another business from 6 to 7, who then would push it to another business from 7 to 8. So, and then we repeating that 3 days this week. There were a lot of people that did not want to do it. They were really nervous about it in the beginning. And the one thing that we talked about a lot in our meetings leading up to this is just be yourself. People come to your shop primarily because of you.
Yeah.
You're the face of your shop. You're the one that they're there to support, and just pretend you're talking to a customer that walked in the door and wants to know about a product. So that has helped, I think, with those that are a little hesitant. And the businesses that have already gone, the Tuesday and Wednesday businesses, they had good response from their live feeds, a lot of sales, and even after the fact, you can save it to your timeline so people can go back and watch it, and you will still maybe get even more people that comment even later that
Sure.
want to purchase something that they saw, and they can check in to see if it's still available.
Okay, so if we go back a step, Katie, and we talk about, well, first with your Instagram story thing, it sounds like that's how you dipped your toe in the water, so that maybe you were, I don't know, you had some whatever anxiety about going all in on the Facebook Live to start with, whatever. So you would just, videotape some of your product, post it out there, and then people would comment and say, I'd like to buy XYZ, and you simply just call them or somehow got a hold of them, ran their credit card and send it off.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do use Square, there is an invoicing option with Square, so I could just ask them for their email address, put together an invoice, and then they can pay it online with a credit card. But certainly I have some older customers or some non-tech savvy customers
Sure.
that just wanted to buy it. Can I just give you my credit card over the phone? And sure, of course. So I would just bring, I had my iPad and I would just type it in like they were standing there right in front of me, and
Yep.
just did a manual card entry. So, and even if you're still like taking, right, I know some people still use like receipt paper, booklets.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can still take a credit card that way over the phone. If
Sure.
you accept credit cards in your shop, you can do it over the phone. So,
Yep. Okay, so that was kind of the, hey, I can do this. This isn't so bad. Yes, it's time consuming, and I'd rather be in my shop talking to people and doing design and being creative, but it is what it is. So then Facebook Live, can you just give us a 30-second on how easy or hard that was as far
if
as?
you can post on Facebook, you can do a live feed on Facebook. So
All right.
you just go into Facebook like you're making a post, and instead you'll see a little option up at the top. So instead of attaching a photo or a video, you'll see a little button that says live, and you just hit that button, and it shows you your camera so you can check yourself out before you go live. And then it says, yeah, right, exactly.
All right.
Drink your beer real fast.
Yeah, right.
Go on.
Put down the bush light, start talking.
Yeah, right. You just hit go live, and that's it. You're live.
All right.
What is helpful that I have found is to have maybe another person helping you with it. So my husband has zero to do with my business. I will tell you that. He has told me from the onset he'll support me, but he is not working there, and he is not, not going to be a part of it. But he's been really helpful, just being my cameraman, just having somebody hold the camera is helpful.
Sure.
I tried to do one on my own, and it was fine. It's doable, but it's definitely easier if you have one other person to kind of help you out.
Yeah, especially if you have short arms, a T-Rex thing, that's kind of tough.
No, I should have taken pictures of what it looked like when I was on my own, because I've got like a chair stacked on a cart, and then books on top of the chair, and then some makeshift tripod thing setting up my iPad. So it's not high tech at all.
The high-end production budget you've got there, right?
Yeah, right.
I know that Janelle Crow is on this call right now, and she's got a shop down the street from you. And
right.
So Janelle, if you're listening, it sounds like this Facebook Live thing is something even you can do. So
And Janelle cheated during her feed. She had
Of
two other
course.
people do her Facebook Live. So
That
shame
sounds
on
like
you,
her.
Janelle. No, it was great. She has an employee that is awesome about talking about her products. And she was able to come down and do her feed for her. So, and that actually is a really good point. It doesn't have to be you. If you're not comfortable and maybe you've got an employee that you're able to bring in and have them do it, go for it. It's
Sure.
it's all about getting the product out there. So it doesn't have to be you.
So I run this video for a while. I jibber jab about my stuff and, push toward a point of sale, call to action, all that. And I get done and I look at my phone and I hit stop and I hit, was everyone watching while I was doing that? That's what Facebook Live means, right? So,
Right.
and then I can archive that if I want to, it sounds like, and
Yes,
repost or share.
as soon as you hit stop, it'll give you an option to save it. And I always save mine. And then it will just go to your timeline on Facebook like a post so that people can go back and watch it later. There was a point I was going to make and now I forget what it was.
Okay.
Happening a lot these days.
Yep. More beer is key, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So what you were kind of giving us, if I recap a little bit here before we take, and also, by the way, we're live right now. So if you have any questions, we're here on April 30th, about 10:30 in the morning. So if you're watching this now, please ask any questions you might have. But if I just kind of recap some of the things that you started out with. So first of all, you had a basic website, brochure site. Sounds like maybe even someone else might have helped you put it together. I don't know.
Yeah.
And an Instagram and Facebook following, which a lot of folks have in your industry, I would think. And you went from that to utilizing Square as your merchant processing system and using their kind of platform, I guess, their website, for lack of a better word, to start taking credit card payments for classes. So you had a little bit of familiarity there. And then you turn that into, well, I'll start posting a few items for sale on here. Is that kind of how you started? And maybe even before that, you were doing this Instagram story thing. Is that
right? Yeah, the Instagram stories, I would say probably over the last 2 years, I've been really trying to, not every day do a story. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Instagram, you can post on Instagram like you can Facebook. So it's just a photo and then you have a caption under it. And that's what's on your feed. So your Instagram feed is going to look more like your Facebook feed where it's just, you just scroll through, people's posts and things like that. But you'll notice if you're using your smartphone, and it is best to use a smartphone or a tablet. It really doesn't have a desktop application for Instagram, not a good one anyway. But you'll notice at the top then of your screen, there'll be a whole bunch of little circles with pictures of the people that you follow. Those are your Instagram stories. And if you click on those, it doesn't have to be video, but a lot of it is video. Some, you can share photos and stuff like that on there as well. But there's an option for you to click on add to your story. And that's where you just record a video and, or post it. On my phone, it's just a swipe up option in the stories and you can add a photo from your camera on your phone. So, but I found it's a great way to, so you can, typically when you post, it's like one picture or maybe two pictures. You're not going to post like 20 pictures of different products that you have available. Right. But in the stories, because it runs like a video, it's basically a slideshow if you're just uploading photos. So I've just found it's a really easy way to share more than what I can share in a basic feed. So so I've been doing that for about 2 years, I would say. And then, started moving into the live Facebook just after this COVID.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right.
That was a long-winded answer. I hope I answered
that's
the question.
Cool. I think it's really important for people to remember that you didn't have not a great tech background at least. And that you probably, like a lot of other retailers, didn't want to have a tech background and didn't want to have to be an online e-commerce type of business owner, you wanted to have a shop and interact with customers, but right now, that isn't an option. And so you got to innovate, and you sometimes have to do things that are left-handed. And it sounds like, for you, a strategy has been to kind of slowly get your way there, starting out with Instagram, taking orders over the phone, not appearing on the videos right away, and then getting to a point where you kind of got a hang of it, know what to say a little bit better, and are doing these Facebook Lives, and then backing it and supporting it with the Square site, which, for those that don't have an e-commerce site already, I'm guessing a lot of the bigger merchant processing platforms will provide you with one these days, so you don't have to build this into your own website, which can often be a big struggle or cost you a lot of money if you've got to pay a web developer to do that. So Katie, when you think about where you're at now and where things might be going, or what you're thinking about next, is there anything there that you would want to share as far as what's next for you, as far as continuing to thrive online or in this new normal that we're experiencing right now?
Sure. I have been wanting to get an online store, some kind, with a good amount of products, maybe not as much as what I have now, but I had always wanted to move that direction, because I know there are a lot of people outside this community that wanted to support me, and they really didn't have a way to, unless they made a day trip and came and shopped. So I've always wanted to do that, and this just forced me to do it, and I want to keep going with it. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but I don't think that things are going to instantly pick back up for us as retailers. Even after we're able to open our doors, I think people are going to be hesitant to come out. Obviously, the economy is not good, so people are not going to be necessarily shopping like they were before. And so I just feel like this online piece needs to remain in order to help my business to continue to thrive. Although I'm not sure I would say I'm thriving, but it's definitely not what it would be if I was open, but it's definitely enough to pay the bills right now, which is all right now that's great. So, so as I'm moving forward, I want to continue doing the online store. It's a lot of work. And I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to manage that once I am open and having to, have the storefront going, plus keep up with orders and things like that. But I'll figure it out. Maybe I add an employee, or the employees that I have, one gal that helps me out on the regular who's not working at all right now. And so maybe that's something she can take on and help out with. I just know that I need to continue with it. And I really do believe as retailers, we need to have some kind of e-commerce. My business focuses on handmade goods, and the whole reason I opened it from the beginning was because I didn't like the idea of Etsy and purchasing online, and I wanted to be able to touch and feel things. And I knew that there were other people out there that wanted handmade goods that they could see in person and have it be better than a craft show, more curated than what a craft show is. So that's the whole reason I started my business. But now I'm finding that I still need to offer that e-commerce piece for those that want to utilize that. And I think as we move forward as retailers, if we can't serve that audience, I don't know that we can be fully successful, because I just think there's people out there that regardless, they're going to shop online, but if they want to support local, that is a great option for them to be able to support local and still shop online.
I think there is a lot of concern and interest and demand to support local, and if you're not giving them that avenue or vehicle to do it, they're going to go to your next door competitor or whatever to kind of do that kind of thing. So I hope,
or Amazon, because everybody knows you can get it on Amazon. It's just I've looked at this. I've tried to remind myself that even though this situation it sucks, to be perfectly blunt, it sucks. There's nothing good about it.
Don't hold back. We can edit out the F-bombs later, I'm sure.
It's a horrible situation, but I really do believe it's made me better as a retailer. It's made me more innovative. It's made me look at how to do business in a different way. It's made me connect with my customers more than I was, which I think is always a good thing. People want to support you, so just give them a way to do it. That's the biggest piece, I guess.
And they want to connect with you, right? Even if it's virtually.
And that actually was, I remembered that was the one thing I wanted to mention earlier, is that when I hate, nobody feels good about putting a picture of themselves out there or putting video out there.
No, I hate it right now.
You'd have to be pretty egocentric to feel comfortable doing that, right? And so putting a photo of myself out on Instagram is never, it's not ideal, but I will say those are the posts that get the most likes. They're the posts that people look at the most. And when I'm putting myself out there and connecting with people on a personal level, it is far more liked than any product or some sales pitch that I'm putting out there.
Well,
because they're able to connect with me on a personal level, and you're not just a store, you're a person. And they're realizing then that when they buy from you, they're supporting you. They're not just supporting a business or your name. And so I find I try to keep that in mind too, that even though it feels weird to put a picture of myself out there, it is what people connect with the most.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point that you're talking about there. How do we maintain some of that social integration in our lives when regulations and distancing laws make that pretty hard? I think that's a great comment that you made there, that people are wanting to connect with you as much, or if not more so than the products that you're selling. So
right.
Okay. Well, I want to wrap this up. We went long, but this was great. This was awesome. It was great to hear how you've come so far so quickly. Necessity is the mother of invention, or some phrase like that. And that certainly has been true for yourself. I know a lot of folks in your shoes are very much not wanting to get online. And I think you've given us some great ideas on how to dip our toes in that water, and the fact that it's needed. And I think you're right. Things aren't going to just, it's not going to be like a rubber band and we're going to go right back to what things were like 6-8 weeks ago. There's been some long-term aspects of our economy that are now going to be suffering, and et cetera. And so I thank you for your time here, Katie. This was awesome.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry we went long.
No, we're good.
I get long-winded sometimes.
We could have cut it off at any point. I've got a button here that says eject.
Okay.
So we're good. No, we're good. No, this was awesome. I think it's great for people to know that there's some simple steps that they can take to just try it out. And so thanks to our audience for participating today, and everybody stay 6 feet away from me, happy, healthy, and safe. And take care, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.